10 years. 10 years he poured his heart and soul into a marriage he believed in. 10 years of building a life, brick by brick, with the woman he loved more than anything. But what happens when the foundation crumbles? What happens when the person you trusted most shatters your world? This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about the agonizing pain of betrayal. The slow, creeping realization that everything you thought was real was a lie. This is the story of how he exposed his wife's secret on the grandest stage imaginable. Get ready to feel the heartbreak. Get ready for Anniversary of Lies, the slideshow of secrets. The ballroom buzzed with a carefully orchestrated symphony of celebration. Champagne flutes clinked, casting prismatic glimmers on the impeccably dressed guests. Waiters, gliding with practiced grace, offered delicate hors d'oeuvres that were as pleasing to the eye as they were to the palate. Mark stood at the head of the room, a glass of champagne in hand, his smile appearing both genuine and something else. A subtle tightness around the eyes, perhaps, or a certain rigidity in his posture that belied the festive atmosphere. Beside him, Sarah radiated joy. Her dress, a shimmering emerald green, accentuated her figure and perfectly complemented her warm, easy smile. She leaned into Mark, her hand resting lightly on his arm, a picture of marital contentment. 10 years. 10 years of marriage, a milestone worth celebrating, a testament to their love and commitment. Or so it seemed. "Good evening, everyone," Mark began, his voice amplified by the sound system, cutting through the murmur of conversation. "Welcome. Thank you for joining Sarah and me on this very special occasion. Tonight we celebrate 10 years. 10 years of what I thought was a beautiful marriage with my wife Sarah." A ripple of applause swept through the room. Sarah squeezed Mark's arm, her eyes sparkling with affection. He returned her smile, a fleeting flicker of something unreadable in his gaze. "For a decade," he continued, his voice taking on a slightly nostalgic tone, "we've shared laughter, built a home, and created memories I believed would last a lifetime. We've weathered storms, celebrated triumphs, and always found our way back to each other. And to commemorate this milestone, I wanted to do something special, something to truly capture our journey together." He gestured towards a large screen positioned at the far end of the room, currently blank and unassuming. The music, a carefully curated playlist of their favorite songs, softened, becoming more melancholic. "So I've put together a little slideshow, a walk down memory lane if you will, a collection of moments, frozen in time, that tell the story of us." The first slide appeared, bathing the room in a soft, nostalgic glow. It was a wedding photo, taken on a sun-drenched beach 10 years prior. Mark and Sarah, younger, more carefree, stood hand in hand, their faces radiant with hope and the promise of a shared future. The audience murmured appreciatively, reminiscing about that beautiful day. Mark allowed the moment to linger, his eyes fixed on the image, a complex tapestry of emotions swirling within him. He remembered the vows they had exchanged, the promises they had made, the unwavering belief in their forever. "Ah, yes," he said softly, his voice tinged with a hint of irony. "Look at us. So full of hope, so blissfully unaware of what the future held. We were so certain, so convinced that our love was unbreakable." Slide after slide followed, a chronological journey through their marriage. Pictures of vacations in exotic locales, birthday celebrations filled with laughter, cozy evenings by the fireplace, and cherished family gatherings. Each image seemed to paint a perfect picture of marital bliss, a testament to their unwavering commitment. But as the slideshow progressed, subtle changes began to occur. The music became more somber, the lighting shifted, casting long, dramatic shadows across the room. And within Mark's narration, A darker undercurrent began to emerge, a hint of resentment and betrayal that pricked at the edges of the carefully constructed facade. "We looked like the perfect couple, didn't we?" he said, his voice laced with a bitter edge. "The envy of our friends, the role models for our family. Everyone thought we had it all." He paused the slideshow on a seemingly innocuous photo taken during a trip to Paris. Sarah standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, her smile radiant. "Paris," he said, his voice flat. "The city of love. So romantic, so idyllic. Or so it seemed." He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he was about to reveal. He had spent months meticulously planning this moment, agonizing over the details, wrestling with his conscience. But in the end, the pain of betrayal had outweighed any lingering doubts. "But behind every smile, every posed photograph," he continued, his voice gaining strength, "there can be a hidden truth, a secret carefully concealed, a betrayal that festers and grows like a weed in a garden of trust." He clicked to the next slide. The image that appeared on the screen was a stark departure from the previous ones. It was a zoomed-in, grainy photo, taken from a distance, of Sarah kissing another man. The man's face was partially obscured, but his identity was not in doubt. A collective gasp swept through the room. The music screeched to a halt, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. Sarah's face registered shock, disbelief, and then a dawning horror. She recoiled from Mark, her eyes wide with panic. "Oh, don't worry, darling," Mark said, his voice cold and controlled. "There's more. Much more. I've been collecting evidence for quite some time. Credit card statements, hotel reservations, intercepted text messages, a veritable treasure trove of deceit." He clicked to the next slide. Another photo, this one taken inside a dimly lit restaurant. Sarah and the other man sat close together, their hands intertwined across the table. They were laughing, their eyes locked in an intimate embrace. "This was taken in Rome," Mark said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Another romantic getaway. I was supposedly on a business trip, working tirelessly to provide for our future. But you, my dear, were enjoying a different kind of business." Slide after slide followed, each one more damning than the last. Photos of Sarah and the other man holding hands, sharing intimate dinners, entering hotels together. Close-ups of text messages exchanged between them, filled with declarations of love and longing. Each image was like a knife twisting in the wound, exposing the depth of Sarah's betrayal. The audience was in stunned silence, their faces a mixture of shock, disbelief, and morbid fascination. Some averted their gaze, unable to bear witness to the unfolding drama. Others stared intently, their eyes glued to the screen, eager to see what would be revealed next. Sarah stood frozen, her body trembling, tears streaming down her face. She tried to speak, to offer an explanation, but no words would come. She had been caught, exposed, her secret laid bare for all to see. "I must say, you were quite thorough," Mark continued, his voice devoid of emotion. "But not quite thorough enough. You see, darling, I'm a rather meticulous man. I have a keen eye for detail, and a relentless determination to uncover the truth." He paused the slideshow, allowing the silence to amplify the weight of his words. He turned to face Sarah, his expression unreadable. 10 years, Sarah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. 10 years I dedicated to you. 10 years of loyalty, of love, of building a future. And this is how you repaid me. This is the legacy you chose to create." His voice cracked with emotion, revealing the raw pain beneath the carefully constructed facade of control. He had loved Sarah with all his heart, had believed in their future together. And now, that future lay shattered, reduced to ashes by her infidelity. I could have confronted you privately, he continued, his voice regaining its composure. I could have filed for divorce quietly, spared us both this public humiliation. But you see, Sarah, my love for you is grand, and so it seems was your betrayal. Therefore, the consequences must be equally grand, played out on the same stage where we celebrated our vows. He gestured towards the audience, his eyes sweeping across their faces. These are our friends, our family, the people who believed in us, who supported us, who shared in our joy. They deserve to know the truth. They deserve to understand why our marriage is ending. He turned back to Sarah, his gaze unwavering. Consider this my anniversary gift to you, darling, he said, his voice cold and hard. A public unveiling of the truth. A reckoning for your betrayal. Now, if you'll excuse me, I believe there are some divorce papers waiting to be signed. He turned and walked away, leaving Sarah standing alone in the wreckage of their anniversary party. The music, a mournful ballad, swelled in the background, amplifying the sense of tragic finality. As Mark made his way through the stunned crowd, he could feel their eyes on him, a mixture of pity, admiration, and disapproval. He ignored them, focusing only on his goal, to escape this scene, to find some semblance of peace in the aftermath of his carefully orchestrated revenge. He reached the exit, paused for a moment, and took a deep breath. The air outside was crisp and cool, a welcome contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the ballroom. He stepped out into the night, leaving behind the shattered remnants of his marriage and the stunned silence of his guests. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The story went viral, spreading like wildfire through social media and gossip columns. Sarah became a pariah, ostracized by her friends and family, her reputation ruined. The other man, a prominent businessman, faced similar consequences, his career and personal life crumbling under the weight of public scrutiny. Mark, on the other hand, was initially hailed as a hero, a victim of betrayal who had bravely stood up for himself. But as time passed, the narrative began to shift. Some criticized his actions, accusing him of being vindictive and cruel. Others questioned his motives, suggesting that he had sought revenge for his own ego, not for the sake of justice. Mark retreated from the public eye, seeking solace in the quiet solitude of his home. He spent his days reflecting on the events that had led him to this point, questioning his own choices, and wondering if he had done the right thing. He knew that he had exposed Sarah's betrayal, but he also knew that he had destroyed something precious in the process. Their shared history, their memories, the love that they had once shared. And in the end, he was left with nothing but the bitter taste of revenge and the gnawing emptiness of a broken heart. The grand stage had served its purpose, the truth had been revealed, and the consequences had been delivered. But as Mark sat alone in the silence of his home, he couldn't help but wonder if the price of revenge had been worth the cost. He had won the battle, but had he lost the war? Had he truly found closure? Or had he simply traded one form of pain for another? Only time would tell if Mark could ever truly heal from the wounds of betrayal and find peace in the aftermath of his carefully orchestrated revenge. The slideshow of secrets had exposed the truth, but it had also shattered his life, leaving him to pick up the pieces and rebuild a future that would forever be haunted by the ghosts of the past. The applause faded, the lights dimmed, but the echoes of that night would resonate in his heart for years to come.